Hello, Bob. How are you? Kathy. Hi, Kathy.
Hello, Blade. Hello.
Joe. Hi, Joe. Hi, Melanie. David. You look very professional headphones there, David. They're gonna look like ear defenders. So it's sort of your second job as an air traffic plane controller. Oh, can't hear you, David. You're unmuted, but there's no microphone. Hi, Steve, Neil, Mark, James. James, you're not eating your lunch. What's happening? Usually James joins us and eats his lunch in the background.
Oh yeah, I've got a question to ask.
Okay. So the big news is obviously about furlough is the bonus. Hi, Keith. Is the bonus scheme that if you bring people back from furlough and keep them on your books until the 31st of January next year, then you will get £1,000 bonus. Now, I did read somewhere, and I'm trying to find it again. I read it yesterday, and then I can't find it again today, that it's not as simple as just having them on your books as of the 31st of January. They also need to have not been issued with a P45. So they're actually using data from sort of the 20th, 25th of February. So if there hasn't been, you haven't terminated them and issued the P45 by the 20th of February, then you would get the £1,000 payout. And you can have it for every single person who has been on furlough who you have brought back. So there were 9 million people on furlough. Okay, so it is potentially 9 billion. It's not going to be 9 billion because we all know that the ones who've come back off of furlough, I don't think greenkeepers, a lot of the greenkeepers were working, not all of them, but were working through that. And other people were getting rid of in restructuring anyway. So you can't claim the bonus for those, but it is potentially a nice extra if you were going to keep the people anyway. I don't think it's worth doing if you weren't going to keep them, because you've got to pay them a minimum of £520 a month to qualify. And it's like, actually, that's then you've got furlough till the end of October, and then you've got to pay them for November, December and January, and then you get £1,000, which is probably for a lot of people not even going to cover the wages for 1 month. So if you're going to keep them on anyway, absolutely get the money, but don't keep them on just for the money, because it doesn't make any difference, not enough difference to justify the hassle. But they are learning. They've given these details out, and they've given themselves now 3 weeks to come up with the actual details. So we shall see by the 31st of July. And when they say by the 31st of July, they mean 31st of July at 10 o'clock at night, generally. They don't mean any earlier than that. They are not rushing to give us those details. But if we do get anything more through, we'll let you know about that. We've had the first question this morning. The staff members need to have been on furlough before June the 10th to qualify for that £1,000 bonus. Okay, so if they weren't on furlough at all, but anybody who was on furlough before June the 10th, it looks like at the moment that any of those, even if it was just for a 3-week period, will get a £1,000 bonus. But again, we don't know what the fine detail is, whether they say, okay, you have to have had them off for a period of 6 weeks or 9 weeks, or whether they will just stick with the 3 weeks. We don't know what they're going to say as a criteria for that. Okay. Let's see, just in the chat. Yeah, so it applies, absolutely, Keith, it applies to employees you've already on furlough. So even if at the beginning you put them on furlough back in March just for 3 weeks, like some of the greenkeepers are just off for 3 weeks, and then they've been back since, at the moment, our understanding is that even for those people, you could claim because they've gone through the furlough system, okay? But that's a bit we need to work out hopefully by the end of July as to whether there are any restrictions on who you can claim for. So this is why I'm saying, if you're keeping people anyway, it's not a big deal, it's an extra bonus, but don't keep them just in case, because it's not going to offset any of the hassle. Neil, with the July flexibility on furlough, does that mean if someone has been furloughed for 1 week, they'll still qualify for £1,000? Okay, so they could only be flexibly furloughed in July if they had already been furloughed before June 10th. So yes. So it's not the July bit that's important. It's the fact that they were furloughed before June 10th is important. Yeah. Okay. If a department's not fully operational, can we part furlough, part pay, depending on the hours? Absolutely. Yeah, and you can change it from week to week and even from day to day. We have a hotel that has an outside restaurant, and depending on the weather, if it's sunny, they need everybody in. If it's not sunny, I mean, like today, they might have a few people. It's not actually raining here yet. Although it does look grey over Streetly, but they would only need maybe 1 or 2 people in because they're not going to have many staff, and they're doing that on calling people the night before to say yes, come in or not come in, and then you're doing your furlough claim at the end of the month where you go, okay, in that week what they actually worked was this, and what we're claiming for to make up to their average hours or their full hours is this amount. So you don't need to worry about claiming. You're not claiming in advance anymore, you're claiming at the end of the month for what actually happened, and you can change it around from day to day, week to week. Okay, it's good. James, have you got a question before I start going into my rant about horrible employees?
I sent you one by email this morning, but I'm not sure if you had a chance to read it or not.
I saw we had one. I was going to...
It was just with regard to, we've got a 0 hours worker who's back now doing X amount of hours and then flexible furlough for the other time. With holiday pay for them, have we missed the boat in terms of paying out their holiday pay they've accrued because they're now back flexibly working and then not? Do you see what I mean? Yeah.
So if they are actually 0 hours and they've got 0 hours in their contract, they've got a proper 0 hours contract.
I think it says variable hours.
Yeah, so it needs to usually have the words that they have the right to refuse work, and we have the right to not give them work. So that would be a genuine 0 hours one as opposed to just part-time variable hours. If it's a genuine 0 hours one, you can pay them out, but you have to use the 52-week average to do that now. If they are, to be honest, you could put them on holiday. If they're only working 20 hours a week, you could put them on holiday for the hours they're not working. Okay, so you could say, actually, you've got some of these holiday. I'm going to say that you're on holiday on these days, because holiday normally is paid time off, not just time off. So if you say, okay, you do 20 hours a day, but I'm going to pay you 20 hours holiday this week as well on the days that you're not working, they'll probably go, yeah, that's fine. It's not usually a big issue with part-time staff. Particularly not at the moment because there isn't much else to do anyway. Still not enough else to do. It's the full-time ones we worry about because we've got to make sure they have the right breaks. The part-time staff are getting breaks. It's just they need to have paid breaks. That's all.
Okay, yeah. Perfect. Thanks.
That's fine. Okay. I'm not sure whether any of you are going to have this problem. I'm just warning you up front that, and this is something we say, and we say this because we are obviously incredibly jaded and we only deal with the troublesome employees. But if you have been putting people on furlough, reinstated people on furlough, and even worse, have been paying them 100% while being reinstated on furlough, do not expect them to be grateful when you say, actually, okay, that time is over now, we need to part company. Expect them to come back and accuse you of any number of different things and say, actually, I am reinstated now and my notice period doesn't count, so actually you have to give me the same notice period again, even though I resigned or you fired me. That's irrelevant. Because the last 2 days with one of our private sector clients, they reinstated somebody they had fired. He'd worked out his notice, and it was just 5 days before the end of his notice period that lockdown hit. So he was put on furlough, and they said, okay, you're not reinstated, but we'll keep you on furlough because we don't want you to be unemployed. Fine. Paid at 100%, been paid up to 100% up till now. And now we've discovered that he is going to inform on the company to HMRC because they made him work, which they didn't. He worked without their knowledge. And they have documentation that they told him not to work. So he's trying to blackmail them into keeping him on until the end of October on 100% pay rather than being unemployed. And so I'm just saying, if the managing director had been fair and reasonable at the time and actually had just paid him in lieu of notice, he would have been long gone before furlough hit, and it wouldn't have been a problem. But because he's been generous, he has had his hand bitten off, and not in a good way. So I'm just saying, it's not because the guy's ego, the guy is just now accusing and saying, no, I'm not going and you can't do this and blah, blah, blah. And this is a guy who had less than 6 months service. I've spent about 2 hours on this guy in the last 2 days. So just be aware that people will come back. People are not generally as appreciative of your generosity as they really should be. So don't take it too personally if there is pushback when you start to part company with people, because they will be in a world of pain. And it does make it bad for anybody going forward, because once you've had one of these situations, you're like, right, that's it, I'm never being generous again. And the next person might genuinely deserve to have a more generous treatment, but because of the one you're dealing with now, there's no way you're ever going to do that again. So I'm just saying, it's just really sad when it happens, and of course it makes us more jaded when we're dealing with employees. I can notice my jadedness. I think I'm going out to comedy tonight, and I think it's long overdue because I need something to laugh at right now. Oh dear. Okay. Right. Okay. Sorry. Sorry. That was Neil. Melanie. Sorry. I missed half of your question, Melanie. Sorry. If a department is fully operational, is that, do you mean Greens or F&B? I don't suppose it really matters. Then the staff do not receive the top-up furlough element between the pay and what they were received on furlough. Well, no, that's your decision. So it doesn't matter whether a department is operational or not. If you want to keep paying them 100%, you can. If you want to put it down to 80%, you can. But you need to give them a month's notice of that change, so that you're not doing it just before you pay the July and say, oh, and by the way, we've only paid you 80% for July. That's a bit unfair. But if you tell them now, or even at the end of July, actually for August, we're only going to pay you 80%, that's perfectly fine. But it has nothing to do with whether a department's operational or not. If you've got problems with people refusing to come back, that's a different issue. That's slightly separate to the furlough thing, okay? And if it's not fully operational, you can do the part furlough, the flexible furlough scheme, okay? And yes, what the fully operational, the reasons why people aren't coming back would be childcare, which is absolutely justifiable at the moment. There are some holiday clubs. I know some schools are breaking up next week, the rest of them the week after, not that you've noticed because they've hardly been in school. And then you would normally have holiday clubs for the working parents, and they are very restricted. They are happening, but they're very restricted in the number of children they can take. So anybody who's got childcare issues, you do need to be a bit flexible until September when all the schools reopen. Then it should normalise down again. Shielding ends at the end of July. So from the 1st of August, everybody who was staying at home to shield should be back at work if they can't work from home. Okay. And if they can't work from home, if they can work from home, but their performance is not good enough, then you are absolutely justified in saying you need to come in. So for example, if you send them, they're supposed to be answering emails and it takes them 3 hours to answer every email, then that's not adequate. They need to be in the office. Okay, sorry, just there's another example of somebody somebody who is too anxious to be in the office. She's got no underlying health condition at all, but it's too worrying to be in the office because she might get something. And she keeps saying she has, well, we don't have an official underlying health condition. She keeps saying, oh, I've got something, but I'm not telling you about it. Oh, for goodness sake. So, but again, she's under 2 years. So we're just waiting until shielding finishes, and then we're going, right, and now you need to get back in. And if she isn't, then she'll be on unpaid leave. That's the thing. And that will probably clarify the position for her rather than full sick pay. Okay. Flexible furlough. Okay, so flexible furlough is really good because it gives you the addition of not having to do everybody back 100% and you haven't got anything for them to do, or they're absolutely off on furlough and they're getting bored senseless. So you can say at the beginning of the week, okay, say F&B, we're opening up the bar, we're serving the outside area, but we're not expecting to have lots of people because they're obviously the distancing, it's not having them in groups so much anymore. So we're going to need to have 3 waitering staff and 1 sort of cook, not a chef. I don't think the chefs are really coming back, to be honest, but a cook to do warming up bacon butties or whatever it is. But I only need them in for 3 hours around lunchtime. Normally their hours would be from 9 till 5. say, you don't have to give them that. You say, actually, I just need you in this week, Monday to Friday, 11 till 2. And obviously any other hours will be made up by the flexible furlough scheme. So you put in the claim saying, I'm paying you at full wage, 100%, including any minimum wage increases. So they're paid at their real rate for the hours they worked. And then you use the furlough rate, so what they were paid back in February, to put in your furlough claim. Okay, the guidance was very clear on that. So you've got to do 2 sets of sums. One, what they paid now on their hourly rate, and then what are we claiming for to make it up. So if they would normally have 40 hours a week and they're working 15 hours, then you're claiming for the other 25 hours by the furlough scheme. Okay, if they're just doing 1 or 2 hours, then they're making it more. If they actually work 40 hours, you don't claim at all for that week, but you might want to do it for the next week. And you can have a little bit every day. You can have just full days and then a day off, or you can have a week on, week off, week on, week off. So it's really flexible, and you can start off doing one thing and then see if it works, and if it doesn't work, then you can change it. And again, we haven't so far had any employees being difficult with that. Everybody seems to be very happy to, 1, still have a job, and 2, be back at work and not be bored at home, because everybody's watched every box set they would ever want to watch on Netflix and Prime. So it's like, and nobody's making anything new. This is the point. It's not that we'll stay at home because there's stuff coming out. They're not filming anything new. So I'm waiting for the 4th season of Ozark, and when's that going to be? Who knows? Okay, so Melanie, so you've got a department that'll be fully operational next week, okay, but some of the staff's pay may be less than yes, some of their pay may be less than the average of the past 12 months, i.e. what we've been using for furlough. So when they come back to work, they will be worse off financially than when they were on furlough. Yeah, yes. No, there's not a lot to say about it. So if you need them all in for their normal hours, then you would just pay them the hours of work. If you've got to still use the average hours. So if they were on average hours, I don't know, 20 hours a week, and you only need them in for 5 hours, you'd still be claiming for that top up. But I know there are some people, including my daughter, she was on furlough from IKEA, and IKEA were paying them at 90%, which was great, of their average hours, and she'd done a lot of overtime, so that was more than what was in her contract, and she didn't have to commute, because her commute cost her 1 hour's pay effectively every time. So she was quids in, sitting at home watching box sets. It was very frustrating. And now she's back, she's doing extra overtime, but she's like, yeah, I got paid more sitting at home. And there'll be a lot of 0 hours people who feel the same. But the point is that was an exception. We will be going back, and the flexible furlough scheme will soften that blow in as much that you can top it up so that they're not any worse. Well, they still get the 20 hours pay. I appreciate they're coming in for as long, and I would recommend keeping that going for as long as you can, certainly for July, that you're doing flexible furlough, and probably for August, because you can still get the 80% back, even if you can't get the national insurance and pension contributions, okay? You might want to think more serious about it for September and October, when the contribution, you actually have to pay the 10% top up to get it up to 80, and in October you have to pay 20% top up. So that's when you go, I'm not sure I want to do flexible furlough anymore. I'd rather just have them back on 0 hours, variable hours, whatever it is. However, we are at the beginning of July. Don't make any, obviously know your numbers, but you don't need to make any decisions about what you're going to do about furlough in September until we are closer to September. We'll have had the summer then. We'll have a much better feel about what, coronavirus is, how it's affecting us, whether people are coming back, whether people are spending, how much we need to open up. So just keep it in your mind that you can phase it out quite easily in September and October and not be on the furlough scheme anymore, but that we're aiming to keep it as a bit of a buffer during the summer, so that we're not going straight from furlough being paid 80% of your average hours down to, well, you're actually really 0 hours and I don't need you, so therefore you've actually got 0 hours this week, which just seems a little bit cruel. Legal, but cruel. Okay. Okay, so that's fine. Holidays, again, if you've got people on furlough still, if there is anybody, get them to take any accrued holiday. Remember that you can refuse holiday if people say, because we had one person say, oh yeah, you want me back at the beginning of July, that's fine, but I'm going away on holiday 20th of July to 20th of August because I thought I'd be on furlough. And it's like, okay, but you didn't ask for permission for that. So actually they're going to be on unpaid leave because they can't, the hotel can't afford to have them on holiday for 4 weeks and pay them. We can't really afford to be without them, but okay, then they're not going to pay them, and it wasn't authorised. So it's unauthorised absence if they do not get your permission in advance, and that needs to be coordinated. And I think you need to be quite strong on that. It is a disciplinary if they book holiday and they don't get your approval in advance, because otherwise you might have a lot of people trying to take holiday at the same time. You've got 70 countries you can now go to without going into quarantine afterwards. One of my friends is in Portugal at the moment. How did he get to Portugal? He flew to Spain and drove across the border. So it's a great system. It stops coronavirus spreading totally. It's fantastic. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know why they didn't think about that. Anyway, so people, more and more people will be doing that. They'll be doing last minute stuff. So it's just to make sure that everybody understands. We understand you want to do your holidays. We all want to get out. But you need to ask us for permission because we are still struggling. You can't assume that your colleagues are just going to be able to cover for you. That's the thing. Okay. Good. What else has come up this week? I think it's just we're doing redundancies, 3-week consultation periods. It is interesting. Most of them have gone very smoothly, thank goodness. But it is interesting. The chefs who obviously are very good at cooking the meals but have no social skills, that have been applying for lower down positions which require more social skills, and social skills are more difficult to define obviously in an interview process, and are getting upset because they don't get the waiting position, even though it's the sort of equivalent of 0 hours, but then they don't get it because they are not customer facing people. And that's where the biggest challenge has been at the moment. We also have lots of settlement agreements going on out there for people where this is if you have people on furlough who you don't want to come back and you don't want to upset the rest of the department by putting them through restructuring. Okay, we can do a settlement agreement. It's the quickest and cleanest, but it's the most expensive one. Okay, so if you've got money to throw at it, that is absolutely the way to go. We would usually work on at least a year's pay to just get rid of them, because any solicitor they go to will say, yeah, you might get more at tribunal, but actually just take the money and run now, because there is a backlog at tribunal of about 18 to 24 months. So you are in a stronger bargaining position. So now is the time to be looking at, are there people we need to be parting company from? Because now is going to be the best time to justify it to the members, to the outside world, to themselves, because of the coronavirus. There aren't many silver linings with coronavirus, but it does give you the chance to change the terms of your green team contracts so that they're not on triple time for doing Mondays, bank holidays, and that they actually work the hours and they don't have 3 hours breaks paid, as opposed to F&B who get 20 minutes unpaid. Now is the time to do that if you want to do it. And if there are members of the greenkeeping staff who you've been sort of tolerating, they've been pottering around the shed, and actually you need to have either them not there or somebody full-time there. Now is the time to have those conversations. People don't retire anymore, in as much that there is no default retirement age. So even, because I've had a few conversations and people are getting it, but committees are particularly bad. They're like, oh yeah, so they've almost retired. We'll just say until they're retired. Have they given you a letter saying they're retiring? No. Well, then they're not retiring. You've got them until, they drop. So you've got to manage them. And now would be a good time to part company, because we all know in private member golf clubs that whatever you do, you'll have half the members on your side and half the members against you. You've got a chance of getting 60% on your side and 40% against you. Much better odds. That'd be great. So parting company from, it usually tends to be somebody in the greenkeeping team who is up near what would have been retirement age, who isn't awful, it's just not productive. Now would be the time to be having those conversations for people to move on. Okay. Good. Okay, are there any other questions at the moment?
Caroline, quick one.
Yeah.
One of the trustees is a chartered accountant, and he sent me the calculation for the flexible furlough.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to be. They actually say it's not logical. Well, you would expect that from HMRC anyway.
Yeah.
So going through we're lucky we've only got a few staff on our books anyway. But I don't know whether it's on the ICAEW's website, I believe, or that's where you got it from.
Yeah.
So I don't think it works out the number of days you work times. It works out a really higher number than you expected.
I did look at them when the guidance came out, and it's saying, okay, well, it's going to be worked on 7 days rather than 5 days, even if people work 5 days a week. And I'm like, I don't understand how that makes any sense, to be honest. And to be honest, that was when I went, okay, I'm going to leave this to the accountants. They can have fun with the numbers. That's great. And they can just tell me what it needs to be. So you're right. I think it's supposed to, the theory is that people are slightly better off if they're on flexible furlough and working than if they were just purely on furlough. But that's the theory. I don't know how that translates with real life figures. That's the thing. Because that 7 days, I think, skews it the other way. So, yes. I'm hoping that the accountants will keep going back and challenging HMRC with that, because they seem to have made it unnecessarily complicated as far as I'm concerned, but not that they'd listen to me anyway, so that's fine. Ray, when is the best time to make someone redundant? Ideally, Ray, before 2 years are up. If we could just make everybody redundant before they get over the 2 years, you'd be my favourite client, okay? So, redundancy, what you need to be working on for everybody who's over 2 years, you need to be allowing a 3-week consultation period and 1 week prep time, okay? So if you want to do any redundancies and you want to, and the reason we're saying this is to do it now is because of the furlough scheme, that it's going to be the cheapest notice period you've ever had, because you get back 80%, 70%, 60% of the notice period. You pay them at 100%, but you get that money back. You won't get that after the end of October. So now is the time to do that. You might have to pay a bit, because if people are on 12 weeks notice, we're getting, and those are the people who, you know, obviously long serving, those people may get over the end of October, so you might have a bit to pay there, but it's still the cheapest notice period you're ever going to do. So they could be on furlough for the consultation period at 80%, and then they're paid 100% for their notice period, but you're claiming back quite a lot of that from the government. So if you do want to do redundancies, obviously we can have a conversation and see if how urgent it is, but I would do it sooner rather than later, so you get the maximum money back from the government. Yeah. Okay. Good. And Cassie has been keeping us very much entertained with her cat and her kittens. She's got 4 kittens that were born last week. So every Zoom call we have an update on the kittens, don't we, Kathy? Yes. And this morning, the cat decided it needed to be contributing to the conversation as well. So it was meowing all the time. It was, and the dog, my dog was like here listening, and he's going, there's a cat in here. Where's the cat? Where's the cat? Sorry. So all of these things keep us on our toes. Any other questions today? Obviously, we're still here. Send us emails. Again, emails are quicker than phone calls, but we're absolutely happy to call you back. And if you do need us to talk to any of your committee about stuff, to explain stuff, then we're happy to do that. Oh, the article on last weekend, was it last weekend? Gosh, it seems so long ago, in the Telegraph, the clickbait one saying, oh, if you fire people, you're going to have to pay back the furlough amounts. No, HMRC had changed its guidance, but it changed the guidance because there were still idiot employers out there going, okay, if I fire them and pay them in lieu of notice, I can claim on furlough. No, you can't. If I make them redundant, I can claim the statutory redundancy pay via furlough. No, you can't. And also then the ones who are actually trying to do something illegal by firing people but not issuing the P45 and pretending they were still on the books and still claiming the furlough for them. So they tightened up that wording. It wasn't that you can't have it, you can't have them on furlough during their notice periods. It's just they genuinely still have to be on your payroll. They need to be not fake people for you to be able to claim furlough. Doesn't matter if they're in their notice period or not, that's fine. But it's just, you can't do all these other illegal things, which, you know, which none of us are doing, so that's fine. So we're all good. Great. Okay, good. Well, I will see you all here next week. If you do know of any other golf clubs who need some help, who are floundering a little bit and knowing what they need to do, obviously we're rushed off our feet, but I'm always happy to talk to people, because I think there is a lot of confusion out there still with furlough, redundancy, what we're supposed to do, what we're not supposed to do, and now is the time for everybody to sort of get a little bit of clarity, certainly the committees as well as the club managers, to know what they're supposed to be doing going forward. Even if they decide not to do anything, that at least they know where they stand. So if you do have anybody and you refer them to us, then obviously you get chocolates. We're very happy to send out chocolates. Okay, good. Otherwise, have a lovely weekend where it's supposed to be not raining and actually sunny, and I will see you all here next week. Thank you. Right, bye.